Hello and welcome to another edition of Puck Talk Zoom edition. My guest today is Johnny De Silveira. How are you, man?
Good, man. De Silveira, but pretty close. I know Portuguese. Portuguese last names are hard to pronounce right away.
My fault. He hosts a lot of great Preds fans reaction videos on YouTube. He's got a great YouTube channel. You should check it out. And Johnny, unfortunately, we're in a little bit of a precarious situation talking about the Nashville Predators, seeing how their season just ended. But you know, I'll say you are the day one Canada Predators fan. So tell me a little bit how you became a fan of the Nashville Predators in the first place.
Yeah, no, I touted myself that on Twitter. I was never really raised to be a hockey fan. My parents weren't big hockey fans. Nobody in my family really was. And outside of the 1994 Canucks Cup run, because everybody in my school in Northwest BC was following it, I decided to follow it. But after that, I lost interest. And then in 97, 98, I started getting engaged in hockey again. And I was already a country music fan since 1993, thanks to finding Reba McEntire. And so when I found out that Nashville, I started liking them when Nashville got their name. It's like, oh, cool, Nashville's got a hockey team. And unlike my friends who were Canucks fans, I thought, hey, it'd be cool to follow a team from the start and really enjoy it, seeing them get better and better over the years, and really felt like I earned it as a fan when they finally, hopefully one day, win the cup.
Yeah. And you know, you have seen it. I haven't. I was born in 2000, so I have not seen the Predators from the very beginning, but you've seen players like Scott Hartnell when he was just that curly-headed rookie, and Dan Hamhuis, and now these guys are starting to retire. So what has it been like to see guys start their career with the Predators and then end their career with the Predators?
Yeah, no, Scott Walker and Cliff Ronning were my two favorite Predators from the first season. And Scott Hartnell and Dan Hamhuis are the same age as me, even though they were drafted a year apart. And a lot of people who know me may have come up in conversation that Dan Hamhuis was born 3 hours down the road from where I was born, my hometown in Northwest BC, which is Kitimat, which is 3 hours away from Smithers. So I felt really endeared to them watching him play on Team Canada and World Junior. And then when they both got drafted, I thought it'd be really cool if like Dan Hamhuis could win the Stanley Cup, and then I could just take a leisurely trip down the road to see his one day with the cup. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
And you know, with all the players that have come in and out of Nashville, ranging from Wayne Simmons to PK Subban to a lot of big names in the NHL, who has been your favorite free agent that stuck with the team, even if it was for a small amount of time?
I like Bonino. That was a good pickup, especially after just seeing him win another cup with the Penguins. I thought that he would be really helpful, and he has, with that third line, to hopefully help the Preds win, because the Preds were so close that summer when he came after winning the cup after we had lost to them.
And David Poyle mentioned something in the exit interviews about, quote, the Predator way, and how the team recently has sort of lost this idea that they play with, that fast, hard, forechecking, defensive-oriented team style. What about the Predator way has especially been lacking, in your opinion?
No, the Predator way is a good way to term it, because traditionally I see the Predator way with this team as a team that always gives 100%, especially under the years under Barry Trotz, no matter win or lose. And on night-to-night basis, perhaps they would give 110%. So when the coaching staff changed in 2014 and ownership appeared to be spending closer and closer to the cap, if the players brought in still played with that same mindset, perhaps with more talent, they would finally reach the top of that mountain. And they got there in 2017, close to it, but have regressed years after.
Yeah, you've clearly been listening to Locked On Predators with Robbie Stanley, but um, as a fan of the team from the beginning and seeing all the highs and the lows and everything, what has been your favorite Nashville Predators memory? Through the whole time they've been a team.
There's making I can't choose this one. It's just a matter of inching up and up. Like finally making the playoffs. That was my first year moving to Vancouver from my hometown. Was actually Hamius's rookie year, and making the playoffs in 2003, 2004, and seeing the progression after that. Perhaps like Forsberg getting traded, hoping that maybe that was the year, and then getting heartbroken when they had to sell off assets, worried that this team could get moved to Canada back in Ontario. And then 2011 was a big year because for the first time, my team was playing the team in the playoffs of the city I was living in.
And I see you got your Titans flag right above your Predators flag. Did you start to develop a love for the Titans as a result of the Predators? Because they sort of, I won't say that the Titans were a little bit earlier than the Predators, but did you sort of stem that love from the Predators to the Titans, or was it vice versa?
Yeah, it was around the same time. I seem to remember reading that again. My favorite singer, Reed McIntyre, was one of the first season ticket holders. Like, had bought one of the first luxury suites. So I thought, oh, cool. Okay, I'll root for a football team as soon as it moves to Nashville. Get really interested in them since it was all things country music. And then same thing when the Preds were a franchise expansion team.
Yeah, and sort of shifting gears back into the Predators here. So there have been a lot of rumors and speculation about Craig Smith, who's been a longtime Predator guy. He's Wisconsin boy, been in the system forever. Reduced ice time in this year's playoffs, unrestricted free agent. Is it time to move on from a guy like Craig Smith, or do you re-sign him for less money?
I'm not the capologist, but if he would take less money, I'd be willing to keep him because, he's the heart and soul of the fan base. I've said in my Pred fan reaction videos, and he's what I would term in current players on the roster, the Predator way, because he takes a lunch pail kind of attitude to how he plays the game. And I loved his outgoing comments from last year after they lost to Dallas, that he really spoke to how the fan base felt for their lack of play versus Dallas last year.
And there's a lot of speculation on what's going to happen this offseason with different players, and should there be a youth movement. And I don't know if you followed the Milwaukee Admirals at all, but what player are you really excited to see on the ice next year?
Carrier, I think, has earned his stripes. If he has a good training camp, I would definitely give him a shot with the big club.
Yeah, and guys like Rem Pitlick and Yakov Trenin, just big, fast, aggressive players. Do you think that they can reinstitute the quote Predator way back in Nashville? Do you think this youth movement will be geared more towards reinstituting this fast, hard, defensive-oriented style of play?
Definitely. No, if they bring in more players from the beginning of the season onwards, like you said with Trenin, perhaps Tovanen and Carrier, that we'll see how the more experienced guys will adjust to that and inspire them to probably work harder, because, hey, if I don't pick it up, I might get traded out of here for a rookie who's going to take my ice time.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta ask. I gotta ask, because I've had this debate with myself for years since I've been a Predators fan. I really didn't start following the team until about 2011, which was right when guys like Smith, Roman Josi, Ryan Ellis, Matthias Ekholm, that core group of players came into the league. So who has been your favorite player to watch over the years? Is it Ellis or Josi, and why?
I guess I gotta go with Ellis by default because he's a Canadian. And I love Yossi. Like I look forward to what happens ahead. Ellis was actually the first authentic personalized jersey that I bought, even though I've
Wow.
been a Predator fan so long. I have the original white jersey that Jersey guy wears in my videos. I've got the ugly mustard jersey from the mid 2000s,
Wow.
and and I still wear that sometimes. But yeah, no, Ellis, it was my favorite of that crop.
Yeah, and you're up in Vancouver, and there's obviously a very big gap between Vancouver and Nashville. So, how have you maintained that love and that passion and that desire for the Nashville Predators?
I'm a very loyal guy. Anyone who knows me long enough, and once I get hooked onto something, I usually don't stray, whether or not music or sports. And despite living in Vancouver, I get razzed all the time by friends and coworkers. Oh, why are you a Preds fan? It's just no. It's just cool to root for this team from day one to see what success they can bring. And I get bugged every time Nashville gets eliminated from the playoffs. It's like, oh, are you gonna, if Vancouver's still around, oh, are you gonna root for Vancouver now? It's like, no, I'm a loyal guy. Right now, it's Shea first, then Trotzy, and then Seth for the cup, and then after that, I'll see who's left.
And the with the way that the Canadians are playing right now, former captain Shea Weber kind of manning the charge. What is it like seeing some of your favorite players get traded away to different teams? Because you've seen every player go in and go out of Nashville from the beginning. So what's it like seeing other players leave Nashville?
Next to him, he was leaving in free agency. Shea being traded away was tough. Like I was excited for PK, but Shea, especially when there was that fear that Philly was going to offer sheet him and get him away, that he was going to leave for greener pastures. But I was happy that Nashville bucked up and matched it. And then yeah, no. At least it's a Canadian team, and I've got a couple friends who are Habs fans who are nicer to me than Canucks fans, so I don't mind rooting for Shea in Les Habitants.
And yeah, and well, Subban and Weber was the best trade of the decade, clearly, because both teams benefited tremendously, and Nashville, of course, went to the Cup the next year. But other than Shea Weber, what was the one guy where you're like, man, I really wish they had kept him around for a little bit longer?
I would have to be Hamhuis. I wish stuff would have worked out. Suter, yeah, Suter I'm on now, but Hamhuis, I wish something could have been worked out, because when after Suter left, we started advancing past the first round. Like Hamhuis left in the 2010 off season, and that next year is when we played him anyways in the second round. Like if he had stayed around longer, maybe we could have gone on farther in the 2011 playoffs. I definitely think with Hamhuis we could have beaten Arizona in 2012.
Yeah, and it's hard to ignore the trajectory that the Nashville Predators are on. They've been regressing, as you said, over the past few years, from going to the Cup final to technically not making the playoffs this year.
No, yeah, you're right there. Technically, they didn't make the playoffs, and they lost to my brother's team this year.
Is your brother a Coyotes guy?
Yes.
Oh boy, that must be an awkward Thanksgiving this year. But what do you think will right the ship? From a fan's perspective, what do you think will right the ship, get these Predators back into that playoff mode?
I'm willing to see what happens with the youth movement. I like the fact that they're changing it up in coaching, getting new voices in there, seeing what. I'll be interested to see who replaces Muse on the coaching staff, and new voices that way. Perhaps Carl Taylor. If they bring in Carl Taylor, that will definitely signal to me that they're committed to a gradual youth movement, seeing how things cohese together with the roster, with the older players and the younger players coming in.
Yeah, and how do you compare John Hines and the way that he's coached this team versus Peter Laviolette? Do you see a big difference in the way that the players play under the two coaches, or is it more of the same? What's your take on that?
Laviolette was more of an offensive coach. We saw that obviously in the first few seasons after he took over from Trotz. I think Hines can be what Trotz could have been if ownership had spent more money at the time. I see Hines closer to Trotz's coaching style.
Do you think that Laviolette was the right hire at the time when he was hired? And if so, why? What did the Predators need back then versus what they need right now?
Well, Trotz's system had become stale. That happens naturally. Laviolette had shown success of winning the Cup with Carolina and almost going all the way with Philly. That with more offensive players, the team could have more success, and the team was a lot more exciting because of the system and the stars that were brought in with Laviolette's first few seasons.
Yeah, and guys like Chris Mason and JP Dumont were two Predators that played for the team and then came back and they joined the broadcasting team. JP Dumont is currently the Tier 3 Junior Predators coach. Do you like seeing former players come back to Nashville and sort of help out everything with whether it be broadcasting or local youth hockey? What's that been like to see?
Definitely, even though I don't live in Nashville, it's nice to see former players. It shows real endearment to the community by the players staying and setting up roots and giving back to the team, along with also talking off the ice with players on the roster about their experiences to help that way with an alumni situation. Eventually, it'd be nice to see these players kind of institute into like a Preds Ring of Honor, because obviously retired numbers are only reserved for a special few, but I'll be interested to see these like JP Dumont and Scott Walker, like we said originally, eventually in a Ring of Honor. And that will really help bring in new fans and maybe old fans who haven't followed the team as much.
Yeah. And the idea that the Preds Cup window has closed is being talked about amongst Preds fans everywhere. Do you believe that this Cup window has closed for good, or do you think that maybe with a little bit of youth and a little bit of hard coaching that they can still return to the playoffs and show, hey, we're not quite out of it just yet?
It's closing, but it's not there yet, especially because I think Yossi just taking over captaincy, he's still got some good years to contribute. And Ellis, that blue line is still really good with Ekholm and Ellis and Fabro, who's just coming into his prime. And with more you've moved with a transition, I think that they can still keep that window open and perhaps open it a bit more, but it's not closed yet, no.
Yeah. And well, with coming that comes the talks of Pekka Rinne retirement, right? It's going to be a very sad day for everybody, whether you like the Preds or not. But when Pekka Rinne came onto the scene and just made that immediate impact, how have you enjoyed Pekka Rinne's tenure in Nashville?
Oh, Rennie's been awesome. I remember that year when he almost took the Admirals to the Calder Cup in 07, was it, I think? And then coming up with the big club eventually. He's been Mr. Predator, and there's never been a talk of him leaving for greener pastures. And unfortunately, he's just never had that ultimate playoff success of a ring, but he's going to be the first Pred to have his number retired, so that means everything to the fan base.
Yeah, and Johnny, one more question because I'm afraid I'm running out of time. I got the cheap Zoom plan. I didn't get the 45-minute interviews. I got the cheap one. I got the 30-minute one. But Johnny, do you believe that the Nashville Predators can win a cup for Rinne at just one, right? Because one cup will put Rinne in the talks of the Hall of Fame. Do you think they can do it? Is it a
In,
long shot?
it's going to be tough, but those guys just have to look at themselves in the mirror in the off season and in training camp. Like I don't mean to compare Rene to like Bork back in the day back in the day of Bork, of his Norris trophies. But if those guys could just look at it themselves like, hey, if we're ever going to win a cup, we can win it right now for Rene, whether or not hopefully he's perhaps started one more season, or if he's backup, just to win it one more time and then have Yossi before anybody else hand it to number 35.
Johnny, to say it's been an absolute pleasure would be an understatement. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah. Folks, that'll conclude this episode of Puck Talk, but be on the lookout for more stuff because I go to college in T-minus 7 days. So we'll see what's going on there. Once again, this is Puck Talk with Spider Jack. Be safe and have a good night.